Hey, it's Bill Van Loo from North Coast Modular Collective. Today I want to tell you about our newest module, the OR switch. This is a collaboration with North Coast Modular Collective, Ali the Architect, and AFRORACK. What I want to do in this video is show you a little bit about what this switch is, what it does, show you some musical applications, and give you some ideas about why you might find it interesting or musically useful. Check it out. So let me tell you about a couple of cool things about the OR switch before we look at what it actually does. The first thing, like I said, is that this is a collaboration between North Coast Modular Collective, Ali the Architect, and AFRORACK. What I'm showing right now is the North Coast Modular Collective branded version of this, but if you look on the backside, this is the same panel branded for the Ali the Architect and AFRORACK edition. You can get it in either one and decide to swap the panel out yourself. Another thing that's great about this module is that it's completely passive. That means it doesn't use any power at all. We're going to have these available on the North Coast Modular Collective website, both as a built module that you can buy just like this, or as a DIY kit that you can put together. We're also going to be doing some build-along events, so those of you who are interested in learning how to solder or getting started building modules for your system, the fact that it's completely passive makes it a great first or second module to try out for synth DIY. So let's dig into what this is and what it does. So just what is the OR switch? Well, at its heart, it is two utility modules bundled together in a way that's really useful. The first thing that it does is it simply acts as a switch between two inputs, A or B. Input A is at the top, input B is at the bottom, and the output, controlled by the switch, is in the white box right here. Because it is an OR switch, those are always used with gate signals. And so what that means is this is a really useful utility for switching between two different sets of gate signals, like a pattern that you might send to a drum module. So let me quickly demonstrate that. On the left side here, I've got Pamela's new workout, and I've got channel 1 here of Pamela's new workout coming up to input A. When I flip the switch up to position A, you'll hear the output of the gates from Pamela's new workout, output A, coming through the switch and out the output. And we need to send the output somewhere. So let's send that output over to the Mutable Instruments Platts, which is in its kick drum mode. I'm going to patch that into the trigger signal, and I'll press start. Since there's nothing patched into input B, if I flip the switch down, there's no triggers coming through there. So that's the simplest possible case. Let's say that I wanted my other source to instead be a slightly different pattern coming from Pamela's new workout. So let me patch that into the input B. Channel 3 on Pamela's new workout is set to take the clock and divide it by 2.6. So you can hear the difference between there. Here's input A, and here's input B, where it just switches between those two sets of signals. So that's the first part of what the OR switch does, is that it allows you to switch between two different inputs and send those out the single output. Now the other part of the OR switch is where it gets a little more interesting, where it uses some digital logic to combine signals using Boolean OR. So to illustrate that, let me stop Pamela's new workout. And what I'm going to do is, instead of switching between those two sources where we've got 1 times the clock division coming out of output A and the clock signal divided by 2.6 coming out of output 3, instead what I'm going to do is use the top channel of the OR switch to OR those two signals together. And you can hear the output of that. I'll press start on Pamela's new workout and we'll hear what that sounds like. So it's taking that stream of gate signals and it's ORing them together using digital logic. And you can see the lights on Pamela's new workout blinking to show when it's producing gates. So already we've got some pretty musically useful and kind of interesting stuff happening there. Another thing that I might do is use input B as something completely different. So I'm going to take a random pulse from this Erica Synths Pico Rand, and I'll patch that into input B instead here. So let me start Pamela's new workout, and then flip this down to B. turn the rate up on that. It's a nice way to inject a little bit of chaos or randomness, but not too much, using this switch as a performance control. Let's take a look at another example. I've still got the output of the OR switch fed into the trigger of Platts, but this time instead what I'm going to switch between is a sequence that I make on the BeatStep Pro and some clocks that are derived from Pamela's new workout. I'm going to use two sequences from the BeatStep Pro and program each one to have a slightly different variation. I'll drop this first one, drum 1 on the BeatStep Pro, into input B and flip the switch down so we can hear what that sounds like. So there's one drum sequence there. Let me take that out and put this other drum sequence in. This sequence is coming from drum 4. Now what I'm going to do is OR these two together. Drum 1, drum 4. Let's hit play and see what the OR does with adding those two things together. By going to a really simple sequence, we can understand a little bit better what the OR function is doing. So on sequence 1, we just have step 1 turned on. And on sequence 4, we have step 1 and steps 13, 14, 15, and 16 turned on. And so what the OR module is going to do is it's going to output a gate signal if there is signal present on 1, 2, or 3 here. That's where the OR in the OR module comes from, is that if a signal is present on any of those, 1 or 2 or 3, it'll output a signal. So on sequence 1, I've only got this step 1 turned on here. And on sequence 4, I've got step 1 and 13, 14, 15, and 16. So the fact that step 1 is turned on both of those means there will always be a gate signal going there. And the fact that 13, 14, 15, and 16 are turned on in the second sequence means that it will also output gate signals there. And so you can see and hear that. And if I keep adding gate signals to either one of the sequences, they will both play through. So let's take a look at switching between that and a constant gate signal from Pamela's new workout to hear how it might sound in practice. I've just got the standard clock going from Pamela's new workout channel 1 into input A on the OR switch, and I've got the sequence OR'd together on input B. The other thing that I'd like to do to make this a little bit more useful is I'd like to go ahead and sync Pamela's new workout with the BeatStep Pro. So let me get that cable plugged in. So when I start the BeatStep Pro now, Pamela's new workout will pop right up and start syncing. Here's the sequence from the BeatStep Pro. Here's that steady clock pulse from Pamela's new workout, output A. Again, using the switch gives me a nice performative aspect to flipping between those two patterns. I could take one of these sequences and move it up into the input A section if I wanted to take the steady clock of Pam's and add a little bit of accent to that. I'd like to show another example that uses gates from Pamela's new workout, but this time thinking about using the OR switch in a bit bigger musical context. So I've got output 1 with just the standard clock signal here again. This time I've got output number 4 of Pamela's new workout set to the clock divided by 2, and right now that's being patched over to the envelope controlling this Bermuda oscillator from Noise Reap. So you'll hear what that sounds like just by those two signals with the clock signal coming into input B on the OR switch and it not really doing anything yet. Now what I think could be kind of interesting is to take that same pattern from Pamela's new workout and to OR it together with input B so we get that extra little bit of rhythmic variation going in there. But that same gate signal is going to be tied to this envelope. So we kind of get those two things doubling each other up. One last example to think about is the potential of using the OR switch as a mute for the gates that you're sending to things. So here's that same sequence. And I'm going to turn up a little bit of delay on that oscillator. So now I've got both of those signals patched into input B. If I don't want any of that signal going to plats for the kick drum, I can just flip that switch over, and since I have nothing in input A, it essentially acts as a mute. So I hope you've enjoyed this look at our new module, the OR switch. Huge shout out and thank you to our collaborators, Ali the Architect and AFRORACK. They're pushing rhythmic innovation in AFRORACK modular performance and recording, and we really thank them for their work on making this a reality. You can find more information about the OR switch on the North Coast Modular Collective website. Thanks for checking this out.